Just not a good day for Tennessee football on Thursday. Isaiah Neyor flips his commitment from Tennessee to Texas. What's the latest with Jeremy Banks at linebacker? Plus, Vols in review. We will talk coaching in segment 2, and then we'll get you set for LSU, a rematch between Tennessee and the Tigers coming up on Saturday. This is your Friday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey guys, welcome into it. This is your Friday edition of Locked On Vols. So glad to have you guys along for the ride. A successful day one of YouTube. For all you guys that checked that out on YouTube, that have subscribed to YouTube, thank you so much. Don't worry if you haven't, there's still time. From here on out, every single episode is going to be available on YouTube for your listening pleasure. All right, or for your watching pleasure, rather. And of course, it's still there at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere else you get your listening podcast from. I am your host, Eric Cain. So glad to have you guys along for the ride. We've got, like I said in the cold open, some news we got to get to for segment 1. On Thursday, Isaiah Neyor, Jeremy Banks. We'll get a basketball preview to conclude the show, and then we'll talk about coaching. And really, segments 1 and 2 are going to kind of go hand in hand, because when we're discussing not being able to close with Isaiah Neyor, what's the latest with his situation? A lot of that goes into coaching, and now Josh Heupel does on the recruiting trail. So that kind of goes hand in hand, but that's kind of what we're doing here on a Friday. Don't forget to dial in every single week and make Locked On Vols your first listen. We'll go ahead and get started right now. So, Isaiah Neyor, he was once upon a time a 2-star wide receiver, from Texas. He's from Arlington, Texas. 6'2", about 210 is what he's grown into. Had a breakout year in 2021 with Wyoming. Once stayed at the transfer portal after about 39 receptions, 12 touchdowns. And with Tennessee losing Javonte Payton, he is the perfect fit to take his spot on the outside, right? He's the perfect fit to line up opposite of Cedric Tillman, to stretch the field vertically. He's got great, yards per reception. He's a big play mentality guy. So when Tennessee picked up his commits a couple of weekends ago, that was huge. And, at the time, I kind of wondered, because he had not visited Tennessee just yet. He went ahead and committed. And the thought was all along that he wanted to be closer to home. Okay, he is a Texas boy from Arlington, Texas, like I said. And now with the commitment to Texas, it makes a whole lot of sense. But he came on and he committed to Tennessee. He visited Tennessee last weekend officially. Just days prior, he went on an official visit to Ole Miss. And so it's never like he really made up his mind with the University of Tennessee. Since leaving Tennessee this past weekend, he went to Texas this past week. And of course, earlier on Thursday morning, made the flip, announced it on social media, said, let's go, signed and ready to go. He flipped from Tennessee to Texas. So it's unfortunate. Tennessee's not had a great wave in the transfer portal, not had a lot of success this go around in the transfer portal. Tennessee brought in Gerald Mincey at offensive tackle back in December, and that's a get, because Tennessee needs an offensive tackle, but there's no guarantees he's going to be the starter. He'll be competing with J.J. Crawford and Dane Davis for that spot. But Tennessee's bread and butter was, hey, we don't have a whole lot of spots to fill. So Tennessee's going to self-impose some scholarships. I think it's more or less closer to 10 than 5. There's not really a number right now. Some people said this number, some people said that number. We don't know the exact number. But Tennessee's self-imposing some scholarships right now. So the numbers are limited. Yeah, just because you see this player and this player and this player hit the transfer portal, that doesn't necessarily mean Tennessee can just go grab some people. All right, it's not the same situation as last offseason. But what was big for Tennessee was it went out and got an impact player at a position of need, and a player that a lot of programs around the country wanted. That's not the case anymore. So Tennessee now, when you look at that offense, still got your quarterback coming back, still got your top wide receiver coming back in Cedric Tillman, still have 4 of your 5 offensive lines, still have your 2 tight ends, and still have your top running back. That's great. But now you're kind of looking at saying, well, where's another explosive guy? Where's another game-changing type player that's going to be in this offense like Isaiah Neyor could have been? So it's a little bit unfortunate. Isaiah Neyor flips his commitment from Tennessee to Texas, and you got to think the name, image, and likeness had something to do with it. There's no secret. the boosters at Texas, the boosters at Texas A&M, they've got some deep pockets. They do. And with the era that we're in with name, image, and likeness, it's not like Tennessee didn't have a deal for him. Tennessee was going to, had a nice little name, image, and likeness deal set up for him here, just like some other top prospects. But Texas's was probably better. And that's going to be the theme from here on out. Name, image, and likeness will play a major role in recruiting, both via the prep athletes and via the transfer portal. Everybody wanting name, image, and likeness, and I am for name, image, and likeness. I think everybody has the right to profit off your name, your image, and your likeness. But with the good comes the bad, and this is maybe considered the bad. Programs stealing away prospects from other programs because they might have a better name, image, and likeness. Now, I don't know the numbers. I don't know the numbers on Tennessee's side. I don't know the numbers on Texas' side in regarding to Isaiah Neyor, but that he has NIL deals at both schools. That a lot of these top prospects, especially in the high school realm, will dictate where they go to school based off name, image, and likeness. It's here. It's par for the course. It's not going anywhere, so we best get used to it. But it is unfortunate because Tennessee lost Isaiah Neyor, a guy that I think could have really, really, really benefited in this Tennessee offense with Josh Heupel and with Hendon Hooker. So what do you do now? Well, got to hit the drawing board again. Tennessee's got to go find some help, right? One other thing from Thursday morning at about 9 a.m., Jeremy Banks posted kind of a cryptic Instagram story. On that story, it's since been deleted. On that story, he said, "I honestly believe that I'm the fastest and most athletic linebacker in the 2022 draft class. And check the stats for production." Couple of Z emojis, eagle flying emoji, and then humbly was his signature. So what's that mean? We mentioned earlier this week that Jeremy Banks, he was never really. The rumors started flying late. The cutoff for underclassmen to put their name to file their paperwork for the NFL draft, that was Monday at midnight. There were some rumors coming in late that Jeremy Banks was thinking about potentially doing that, but hadn't seen him make an announcement. Hadn't really seen it from anywhere else. And so you thought that was really not going to be anything. Well, he put out this thing on his Instagram story that's since been deleted. It's got to make you think, you got to make you wonder. And people I've spoken to, and I'm sure you've seen this online as well, maybe Friday is when we're going to get kind of a word, because I'm pretty sure that the general managers in the National Football League will get an official list on Friday of the underclassmen who have filed their paperwork. And then maybe we'll know then. But right now, the future of Jeremy Banks on the Tennessee football team, and nothing to him. I know that he's jeopardized that status off the field with his incidences early on in his career, but he's kept his head down. He's been a fine teammate and a fine player since. But his status with the Tennessee football team is very much in jeopardy right now, and that's something we got to pay attention to. So over the weekend, coming into Monday, we might have news that Jeremy Banks potentially filed his papers and entered the NFL draft. At least that's what his Instagram story said. Maybe he got the years mixed up. Maybe he's looking ahead, talking about the 2022 college football season and thinking of that draft. Maybe he just put that out there, didn't think anything of it. Maybe he was just comparing himself. We don't know. It's kind of been dark. No one knows. I've asked around him. I've tried to dig through this. No one really knows. But he did put out a story on his Instagram, this being Jeremy Banks. And again, with a quote that says, "I honestly believe I am the fastest and most athletic linebacker in the 2022 draft class. And check the stats for production." It's since been deleted. So that's something we've got to pay attention to, because when you're talking about Tennessee's defense coming back in 2022, oh boy, if you don't have Jeremy Banks, who, again, I've been all over the road with him. I think he is improved. I think he's turned into a nice linebacker. Still think he's got such a high ceiling and so much more room to grow, become even a better player. He does stupid stuff. He gets you penalized for stupid stuff in between plays, after plays, all that and more. But there's no doubt about it. Coming back, he is Tennessee's most important player in the middle of that defense. And if Tennessee's defense loses him, where they're already shallow and hurt in the secondary, losing guys up front, that will not be good. So hopefully some more information will come out of that over the weekend. Maybe this is nothing, but I wanted to tell you guys, in case you didn't see it, I don't want you to be bombarded by this. If this were to happen over the weekend, reports come out, Jeremy Banks enters the NFL draft, because rumors were flying late Monday, and then this Instagram story on Thursday morning. So wanted you guys to be prepared. So not the best day for Tennessee football on Thursday. Of course, there's been some good. There's been some bad. A lot of people want to beat up on Heupel, and we'll talk about this more in segment 2 But don't forget, this staff closed very, very well in the early signing period on that last day. Right now, as it stands, Tennessee's 2022 signing class, 11th in the country because Tennessee closed. We'll get more into that here in just a moment, but just don't forget, if Tennessee let go of Isaiah Neyor, it is what it is, but it's not like Tennessee staff hasn't been doing work, in this class already. So more on that in a moment. Vols in review, that's coming up here with coaching in segment 2. But first, this is it, the putt to win the championship. If you sink it, the championship is yours, but on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated financing software? To see the full picture, you need to upgrade, and you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth with visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, planning, budgeting, and a whole lot more. NetSuite is everything you need to grow, and it's all in one place. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. 93% of surveyed businesses have increased their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite, and for the new year, NetSuite has got a new financing program for those ready to upgrade, and it's at netsuite.com/locked. So head on over to netsuite.com/locked for the special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. Again, that is netsuite.com/locked. Welcome back into a Friday edition of Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Cain, @_Cainer on Twitter, @Locked On Vols. If you're new to the show, welcome to it. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Vols, Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, or watching this episode now on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to that. Would help out this podcast, help out me a whole lot. So really, really do appreciate that. Let's go ahead and pick up on our conversation from segment 1, talking about how there's a lot of fire for a lot of upset fans, a lot of angry keyboard typers on Twitter, on the message boards, because of the Isaiah Neyor flip from Tennessee to Texas. Hey, it is what it is. It sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say this isn't a big deal. This is a huge deal. I had Ramon Foster of 104.5 The Zone, of course, VFL, a 10-year NFL veteran with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and a friend of the show here on Locked On Vols. We'll get him on soon. He reached out to me saying, "Hey, man, how big of a deal is this?" I'm like, dude, this sucks. I mean, it really, really does. What the potential for Isaiah Neyor in this offense with Josh Heupel, with Cedric Tillman, and of course with Hendon Hooker. I mean, it was through the roof, right? And that was a big need because you needed to replace the production of obviously Javonte Payton, because that's going to be the same position, but also to supplant the production from Bayless Jones in the slot, because you're losing those two guys. For as much since he has coming back, you're losing those two guys. So a lot of people were upset about how Heupel allowed that to happen. Well, let's not forget how quick we do forget. And of course, we live in a "what have you done for me now lately" world. I get that. But let's go back. Let's look at this class of 2022, December 15th through 17th, with Tennessee closed on 3 players that were huge. Number 1, running back Justin Williams. He was a West Virginia commit for so long. It was Tennessee. Then, about 48 hours outside of the early signing day period beginning, Auburn came pushing hard. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm pretty sure I told you guys on this podcast, but really so the early signing period began on Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. or whatever. That Tuesday afternoon, it was trending Auburn. I mean, if you would have asked me Tuesday afternoon, I would have told you Auburn was going to get him. But then as the night unfolded and you got closer to 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, it was, okay, he's back at Tennessee. He's going to sign with Tennessee. So you reeled in Justin Williams. You hold on to him, a 4-star running back. All right, that was huge. You get Tyree West, who was a former top 100 overall prospect, a former Georgia commit, a really, really nice defensive a lineman prospect, and a guy that I think Rodney Gardner can do a whole lot with. You reeled him in. That was a big get on early signing day. And then later in the afternoon, you got James Pierce, a guy that Tennessee's been after for quite some time, a guy that you thought was going to hold off until the February signing period, but Tennessee was able to get him there. So those are 3 huge players, 3 wins Tennessee picked up on day 1 of the early signing period that helped propel this class, as it stands right now, number 11 per Rivals. And I know you look at ESPN, you look at 24/7, you look at On3, they're all going to be a little bit different. But per Rivals, the outlet that I'm a part of, number 11 in the country. So it is what it is. And I'm critical too. Hey, you guys know me. You guys know me very well. You listen to this show every day. I'm very critical, sometimes too critical. It comes with the territory. It is what it is. But don't forget what the staff already did in closing and bringing in some of those prospects in the early signing period. Obviously, yesterday, Isaiah Neyor flips from Tennessee to Texas, and it is what it is. And so we'll see how Tennessee responds. If Tennessee will go out and bring somebody else in through the portal, numbers are tight. Will Tennessee close with the prep period very quickly? Will Tennessee get a couple of defensive linemen to come in? We'll have to see. All that's going to unfold here in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. Plus, with the transfer portal, there are some guys that Tennessee's evaluating right now who are already enrolled in their respective school, but in the portal, and they're going to do spring semester and then go somewhere else. So Tennessee very much could get some guys after the spring semester. So let's move on. Vols in review, coaching. Let's get back to what's on the point of the game is to win games, right? Tennessee, very, very successful in year number 1 with Josh Heupel. You went from 3-7. You flipped the script, went 7-5 in the regular season. Okay, you beat up on the teams you're supposed to beat up on. All right. You still lost some games to your biggest rivals in lopsided fashion: Florida, Georgia, Alabama. Though you led in every single ball game, and though in points and times, it was a touchdown game in the fourth quarter against Alabama. About midway through that fourth quarter, then they took off. Georgia, you had a lead in the first quarter. You exited quarter 1 into quarter 2 leading against Georgia. Florida, you took the lead there in the first quarter and was a ball game for half the game. So you need to get more sustainable in those games. I hear you, and we'll talk about that all off season. Tennessee could have won Ole Miss, didn't. Tennessee could have won Pittsburgh, didn't. So had chances really to win all 5 games. No, I'm not saying Tennessee should have beat Alabama or Georgia. I'm not saying that. But Tennessee had chances in every single game. So 7-5 regular season, job well done. You fall in the Music City Bowl. It is what it is. Very frustrating. Tennessee was down a couple of star players, as was Purdue. Let's not forget that. But it is what it is. He's the winner. Josh Heupel's the winner of the Steve Spurrier first year head coaching award, sharing that with Shane Beamer, who had another really, really good season. So it's easy to see coaching in Vols in review would get an A grade, right? On those Monday graphics that I put out there that Lance Stahl helps me out with during the season, I always grade every position. Quarterback, B; running back, A; offensive line, C, whatever the case may be. I pretty much always gave coaching a B, because coaching, you have so many decisions throughout the game to where if you miss on one, we nitpick like crazy, right? So I pretty much always gave coaching a B or a C. Never gave him a D or an F, never gave him an A. Pretty much always gave him a B or a C, usually a B. There's only a couple of times this season where I'm just looking at Josh Heupel saying, whoa, what a dumb play call. What a dumb series of events that was right before the end of regulation in the Music City Bowl against Purdue. Well, if you like that, if you didn't like that, then you can't like what he did before the half against Kentucky, because it was the same thing, right? It is what it is. It kind of goes for it. Some of the short yardage play calling I couldn't stand all season long. Very, very vanilla, just going right up the middle with your 5'10", 190-pound back. Makes no sense. Sometimes wide receivers aren't running routes. Sometimes you have half the field in play, which I don't get. I don't like that. And Tennessee's not the only team that does that, okay? I don't know if you guys have picked up on that in terms of sometimes you'll be watching Tennessee and Javonte Payton on your TV screen, on the bottom half of the screen, he's just standing there when it's Cedric Tillman and Bayless Jones running routes on the other side. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've noticed that. Tennessee's not the only team that does that, but it still frustrates me. So there are some things here that I didn't like. But overall, how can you not give this coaching staff an A after year 1, right? Especially if you close this recruiting class with a top 15 class, all things considered. Again, I always said I was giving Heupel a pass on the class of 2022, and I always said it was going to be tough. There might be some wins you have to give up on the recruiting trail in 2023, but by 2024, you best be getting this thing rolling, and we're going to have an idea of what type of recruiter Josh Heupel and staff are by the 2024 cycle. That doesn't mean that it's a gimme for 2023, but 2022 was a gimme for me. It was. If you finish top 15, it's a heck of a job. It really, really is. There's some more things to come. But recruiting, as we all know, is more. You do more recruiting than anything else in being a college football coach. More times than on the practice field, more times than coaching a ball game, certainly. It's more recruiting than hardly anything else. And so, yeah, there's been some guys in the in-state that you should have brought in, but where you are right now, this class of 2022, job well done. The guys via the transfer portal that you brought in that contributed to the 2021 season, job well done. You missed on one, Juwan Mitchell. Hooker, which was a Pruitt guy that he brought in, you hit on him. Peyton, you hit on him. Tremblay, Terry, they each had their roles. You hit on them. Juwan Mitchell, obviously, TBD on what his status is with the team right now. But like I said, earlier in the past couple of weeks, it looks like he might be returning, but he was a miss in year 1, too. But the impacts that you got via the guys in the transfer portal for the year one with this staff, very, very good. So where do you go from here? How do you close out this wave of the offseason? And that's TBD as well. You lost Isaiah Neyor yesterday, but can you pick somebody else up? Can you pick a couple of other guys up in the weeks and the months to come? That's to be determined. Heupel, great job. Golish, great job. Ellerby, fine job this season considering all the injuries you had to do up front. Yes, did the offensive line give up too many sacks? Of course it did. That's got to be a point of emphasis moving forward, is protecting your quarterback more. But averaging over 200 yards on the ground with the shuffle deck and injuries here, injuries there, job well done. Receivers, slow start. I don't think all the overthrows from Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker at the beginning of the season were all on the quarterbacks. I think a lot of that had to do with the receivers. I think Cody Burns, I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't big fans of Cody Burns. I mean, I thought he did okay. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. I thought he got better as the season went on. Rodney Gardner, enough said. You see that transition for the defensive line. Still got a ways to go, and he'll tell you that too. Brian John Murray, I think, even though it was bad, especially bad the last 4 or 5 games of the season, what Brian John Murray did at linebacker this year, he did more with less than I'll say probably anybody in the country. Playing 3 guys, Jeremy Banks, who turned into a pretty good linebacker, Aaron Beasley, and Solon Page. Those are the 3 guys Tennessee played at linebacker this year. And the production that you got from those guys, pretty remarkable, especially not being able to play anybody else. And then in the secondary, Tim Banks and Willie Martinez struggled a lot at times. But here's the thing. I think Tim Banks' hands were tied a lot of the time simply because the personnel that he has. As the years go on, I know you got to be patient. No one wants to hear that. I think you'll see more of what, if he sticks around, I think you'll see more of what Tim Banks is capable of as a play caller when he's able to do more. I think a lot of times his hands were tied, if that makes sense. It's no excuse. I think he had a bad day at the Music City Bowl, obviously. I think he ran man coverage way too much. But you had to get a pass rush, right? It's all tied in. So coaching and review, thumbs up, right? I mean, it's got to be. But it's ever evolving. It's always changing. And we live, again, in a world of what have you done for me lately? So you got to continue to recruit. You got to close on the recruiting trail. Defensively, you need to take some steps next year. Offensively, what you did last year, that's the expectation. Way to go blow your load in year 1, right? But hey, that's the expectation. Can you build on that moving forward? We'll have to see. But Vols in review, it's now over with. Been doing it the last couple of weeks. Been a whole lot of fun. Coaching, it's got to be an A. It has got to be an A. All right. Well, Tennessee basketball pick up an A effort on the courts this weekend. We'll have to see. Trying to avenge a loss from earlier in the season at LSU. It'll be back in TBA as LSU comes to town, 6 o'clock tip Saturday evening. We're going to preview that, plus a couple more announcements from Tennessee football and some other stuff in segment number 3. But first, it is BetOnline. I'd like to wish you a happy new year of betting as we continue our march throughout the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains your number 1 spot for all your best sports wagering this season. A new year, new updated website and mobile device. Sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use that promo code Locked On to get started. Promo code Locked On for 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Las Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers available for the 2022 calendar year. BetOnline is the fastest. It is the easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline. It is where the game starts. All right, we got a final segment left here on a Friday episode of Locked On Vols. Thanks so much for tuning in, making this another successful week. The launch of YouTube this week. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Do it for the show. Don't do it for me. Do it for the show. We need subscriptions. That's at Locked On Vols on YouTube. And of course, I tweet out that link every single day. Thanks so much, as always, for making Locked On Vols your first listen. All right, a couple of announcements. First and foremost, as soon as I got done recording last night, editing, you guys know me, my Premiere issues, getting better. But as soon as I got done, was ready to upload this bad boy to Megaphone and Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that type of stuff, YouTube, Cade Mays enters the Senior Bowl. Cade Mays is accepts an invitation to the Senior Bowl. So was not going to go back and redo an episode. Sorry, I tweeted it out. But Cade Mays will be in Mobile, Alabama later this month for the Senior Bowl, and that's exciting because again, it is just it's such an amazing platform. It's not just the game, all right? It's not just the game. It's the week where NFL personnel, front office personnel, general managers, head coaches, they're there watching you practice. They're there watching you play, compete. It's the week, not just the game. It's the week. And so for Cade Mays to be healthy enough to play in that, job well done. Get that invitation. That's going to help him out a lot. He'll join teammates Alontae Taylor and Bayless Jones as Tennessee representatives at the Senior Bowl. And hopefully we'll be able to sit down and talk with those guys during that week. So looking forward to that. Washington has been added to the Tennessee football schedule for a home and home. The series will be in Knoxville in the year 2029. And we'll be in Seattle in the year 2030. So not sure if I'll still be at the radio station. Not sure if I'll still be with VolQuest Rivals. Not sure if I'll still be hosting this podcast. But in 2030, if we're still here on Locked On Vols, we're gonna be in Seattle. So that'll be a whole lot of fun. We'll have to meet up and hang out. So that is really, really cool there. SID over at Tennessee, Bill Martin, he posted this tweet after the Washington home and home was announced on, I guess it was Wednesday. Here are the Power 5 Indy opponents that have been signed, sealed, and delivered out of conference, games coming up in the years to come. Of course, 2022, it's going to be Pittsburgh. 2023 at BYU. That's 2022 at Pittsburgh because, of course, Pittsburgh was here this past season. So we'll be in Pittsburgh next season. We'll be at BYU in 2023. Oklahoma heading to the SEC. That's in 2024, so that might change. We're not sure yet. Syracuse in Atlanta, 2025. At Nebraska. Oh, hello, 1997. At Nebraska, 2026. Home against Nebraska, 2027. West Virginia in Charlotte. That's not going to get anybody excited. That's in 2028. Washington at home in 2029 and at Washington in 2030. So that's kind of exciting there. That's the lay of the land over the next couple of seasons. Okay, so we got that done. We got that done. All right, let's go ahead and get into our preview for LSU at Tennessee, rather. Okay, so Tennessee comes in still ranked number 24 in the latest AP poll, which is very surprising. Thought that they would drop. Tennessee 12-5 on the season, 3-3 in SEC play. Picked up its first road win in SEC play over the week. I guess it was Tuesday night, late night at Vanderbilt. LSU comes in number 13 in the country, 15-3, 3-3 in SEC play. LSU is coming into the matchup losers of 2 straight. Lost at home against Arkansas and lost on the road against Alabama on Wednesday night. Here's something you need to know, okay? So it was Tennessee and Kentucky. It was defense versus offense. Well, now against LSU, much like just a couple weeks ago when Tennessee played LSU, it's defense versus defense. Saturday's game is a matchup of the 2 of the nation's top 5 rated defenses in adjusted efficiency, according to KenPom. LSU's defense ranks number 1, allowing just 81.3 points per 100 possessions, while Tennessee ranks number 5 at 88.5 points per 100 possessions. Now, again, Tennessee's ranked number 1 in this KenPom defense adjusted efficiency rating before. Now it is LSU. So that's kind of the thing. It's 2 good defenses going to work inside TBA at 6 o'clock on Saturday night. So Tari Eason, transfer forward, formerly of Cincinnati. He's a leading scorer, of course, 16 points per game. That is 6th in the SEC. A couple weeks ago when Tennessee was at Baton Rouge, I say a couple weeks ago, it was literally not this last, it was 2 weeks ago. It'll be 2 weeks ago by tomorrow on January the 8th. Easton scored 24 points and had 12 rebounds during that Tennessee win. You've got point guard Xavier Pinson. He's missed the last 3 ball games. Not sure if he'll be able to be available and play against Tennessee on Saturday. And then forward Darius Day, very much an impactful player for LSU. He missed most of the game at Alabama this past Wednesday, exited in the first half. So his status is going to be very much up in the air. So last time at LSU, well, we know how that kind of went. You had Tennessee rallying in the second half, but eventually falling on the road at the time, number 21 LSU. Final score was 79-67. Kennedy Chandler led the way, 19 points. Vescovy had 14 points. Uros Plavsic had a season high at the time, 12 points. He upped that the other night with 13 points at Vanderbilt. He was 5 of 8 shooting. He had 7 rebounds off the bench. Of course, now Uros is in that starting rotation. Eason, again, as I mentioned, 24 points. He had a second chance points for him and for LSU. Outscored Tennessee 18-5 in that role. After holding a 7-point lead at halftime, LSU was hot out of the gates in the second half, exploding on a 20-7 run that extended to a 20-point lead at 62-42. But of course, Tennessee quickly chipped away, brought it to 71-66 as Santiago Vescovi hit a three-pointer. But then LSU was able to pull it out and able to take control of that basketball game. So again, I mentioned some of the point totals: 19 from Chandler, 14 from Vescovi. Olivier Cumwa had 9 on 2 of 6 shooting. He had 7 rebounds in that game. Not a good game for Josiah Jordan-James. We'll have to see about his status as well, as he exited the first half at Vanderbilt on Wednesday. He just had 3 points in that first meeting, 1 of 8 shooting, all 3-pointers. John Fulkerson, 3 points, 5 rebounds, 0 for 0 from the field. Played 17 minutes. Fulkerson, 17 minutes, did not take a shot. His 3 points came from the charity stripe. So mentioned Uros Plavsic, 12.7 rebounds. That was good. He got 3 from Ziegler off the bench. He just played 11 minutes. Got 2 from Victor Bailey Jr. Those are both at the free throw line. He just played 8 minutes. Meshack got 2 points. He played 6 minutes. Justin Powell took 1 shot. Thankfully, he's kind of got out of that slump. He started shooting a little bit more as well. And Brandon Huntley-Hatfield had no points in 3 minutes as well. So we'll have to see what that lineup will be. The same lineup. Will it be? Well, it can be the same starting lineup if Josiah Jordan-James is hurt, depending on his availability. Will they go small ball? Will they go 3 guards with Uros and Cumwa? Will they stick, if Triple J is healthy, will they stick with that same starting 5? I would. I think it worked, and you got a lot of energy from John Fulkerson off the bench when he came in, and Tennessee almost did a wholesale change there. If you noticed, Kennedy Chandler, I think it was before the media timeout when they made their first sub against Vanderbilt there in the first half. Chandler stayed on the court, and then you brought in 4 for 4, and Fulkerson was in that role. So this is a huge game for Tennessee. Again, Tennessee 13-5. Just kidding. Tennessee is 12-5 on the season, 3-3 in SEC play. You need this win. You need this win against a ranked opponent, and you need to buck the trend. Since the win against Arizona back in December, Tennessee's gone 3-3. 1-1, lost 1. 1-1, lost 1. 1-1, lost 1. Tennessee needs to win 2 straight for the first time since before, December the 22nd? That's what the Vols need. So plenty of coverage right here on Locked On Vols. We will talk about it on Monday, of course. Plenty of football news over the weekend. We'll give you the latest with Jeremy Banks on Monday. All that and more coming up on Locked On Vols. If you want to listen to that broadcast of Tennessee and LSU, of course, it'll be on the Vol Radio Network, your Knoxville affiliates, 99.1 The Sports Animal, where I work, also 107.7 WIVK. Guys, thanks so much for making this a successful week. Again, got to do it, got to plug away just to get me to shut up, right? Go ahead and subscribe to YouTube. Do it for the show. The show needs you. Subscribe to YouTube. And hey, if you're there and you want to watch in the cubicle, I'll trim the beard up a little bit more next week, and we'll try to get it better. Pretty soon, I want to start putting video B-roll over my ugly face, so we'll make this a real nice production. You just got to let me get this podcast up off my feet, up off the ground on the YouTube first. We got to walk before we can fly. Guys, thanks so much, as always, for making Locked On Vols your first listen. Check out Locked On Bets now. It is your one-stop shop for all your sports wagering. Your boy Q, handicapping expert Lee Sterling, Locked On Bets, Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy does a fantastic job. Check out Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC as well. Most of all, thank you guys for making this a successful podcast, the second biggest podcast in the college network. Hey, Auburn, we're coming for you here on Locked On Vols.